you've witnessed the full 90 minutes match. Obviously, everybody was rooting for South Africa Mexico to win and then South Africa to lose. The first half was a bit intense because South Africa wanted to prove a point, even though they conceded one. But in the second half, they looked lost. Like, I think you made a comment that they needed to focus on the game very well and then perform, but they looked lost in the second half. They conceded 2 red cards and then they looked unorganized. So what would you say? Was it in your expectations, or was it something that you think maybe Mexico could have scored more than the 2 goals they scored?
I think it's the balance of both. The Mexicans, I think, should have taken advantage of the numerical disadvantage of South Africa and at least score 1 or 2 more goals to make it 3 or 4. But in such tournament, you want to preserve your players. You could see that after the first red card, the Mexican coach tactically withdrew what you would describe as his key players. Because look, it's been a long season already, and in the altitude under which the World Cup is being played, as coaches, you pray to have an easy game like this so that immediately you withdraw your key players and get them ready for the next game. I think that took a bit of steam out of the game, but the South African team themselves did not show up. I don't know whether the occasion got to them or they were just not up to the standard required. They themselves, I think they are yet to win a game at any World Cup that they participated in. So I think that inferiority complex is still more or less following the team. I was a bit disappointed in them because, again, the coach, Hugo Bruce, is an experienced coach. We all know what he did with Cameroon. He's completely transformed this South African team. And for a team that has got 7 starters coming from one team in South Africa, the champions of Africa, which is Mamelodi Sundown, you expected them to be a bit more aggressive, especially in possession.
Yeah.
They showed no decent attacking intention, and I was very disappointed. But apart from that, whatever happened was expected. We expected Mexico to come out and dominate, which they did. And you look at the first goal that South Africa conceded, I think it was an enforced error. I spoke about the fact that they should be very careful not to do a lot of turnovers. The first goal was an example of what I highlighted. There was an unnecessary turnover. Under no pressure, nothing, they committed an error and they paid for it. At this level, when you commit such error, it is proper you pay for it. And for me, football again has shown that maybe you could be pardoned at the initial stage. When I say initial stages, I'm referring to the developmental stage. But at the apex of the game, tactically, you cannot be pardoned if you don't show a proper quality at this level. And the South African team, I think, look, they'll have to do a bit more. I'm disappointed as an African because we now have 10 teams. Like I said, it will be very disappointing not to have 50% of the African team in the next round of the competition. And I hope they will look at the next 2 games, which will not be against the host nation. They'll come out and show us what they are capable of doing. But whatever happened was a bit expected.
Thank you very much. But just one more question. Looking at the first half, you could see that Ronwen Williams was making a lot of saves. He tried to reduce the deficit, right, to still be one goal going into the second half and trying to see if they could do a comeback. But looking at the second half and the way they attacked and then the unnecessary red cards they got, starting from the example you made about their turnovers and everything in the defense, going into their next game, which is just 2 games left, is there a possible redemption for them with the teams they'll be playing going forward?
Yeah, I think they can do something better. You see, the format of the World Cup will tell every participating country that even if you lose your first game, you still stand a chance of qualifying. So they have to, there's nothing they can do about this. This is done. It is what is ahead that can be looked at and properly approached and make sure they get something out of it. Like I said, they are coached by a very experienced manager. He will look at the clip. The other 2 teams in the group are yet to play. He will look at what they will offer when they meet each other, and then based on that, come up with a proper tactical strategy to enable them go and make Africa proud. My only concern is that in their next game on the ball, we should see a bit more intent. You see, when you don't dominate the ball, like we saw of them, when you get it, you have to capitalize. You have to make use of it. We knew they were not going to dominate. I don't expect them to dominate the other two opponents, but I don't think they should be a bit shallow. Yeah, they have to be a bit more bold in their approach. I think the occasion got to them. In the next game, they will not be playing against the host nation. So I don't expect them to be a bit timid. I expect them to be a bit more expansive, a bit more expressive in whatever they are doing. And defensively, they need to patch up a bit. They are too, I don't know whether, if you are playing a back five, tactically, you've got numbers at the back.
Yeah.
So the spaces should be limited. But if you look at the ease with which the Mexican team was cutting through them, I think that was too easy for me. And I hope it will be rectified in the next game.
Thank you very much, Coach. And what was your expectation? Mexico won, obviously. Was it something you were expecting or you weren't expecting? Which team were you rooting for?
I think it's obvious. Everyone was expecting Mexico to come out with a win. There was a very low intensity game from my perspective. I think South Africa could have done much better. It looked like they were a bit lost, couldn't find their bearings. But I think it was a good game. 3 red cards in an opening game is always going to be a memorable one.
But I think from the first half it was more high intensity because you could see that South Africans were trying to prove their point, and then Mexico also trying to prove their point. It was the second half that they messed up, and then they considered 2 red cards. I agree. Going into the next game, what would you want South Africans to do, even though maybe you weren't supporting them?
I don't know if it's nerves, but I think if they're able to settle down and pick a game plan, it will be easier for them to move forward and then play a better game. So that's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, Big Boss, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm Jackson from Africa for Sports. With the game they just played, South Africa, Mexico, what was with the score line and everything? Was it in your expectations or what were you expecting?
Yeah, of course. This is the opening of the World Cup, and of course we're all supporting Mexico against South Africa. And it's not because we hate South Africans; it's because of the recent development that have happened. And I believe that this is a clear message to the South Africans that we live in a global economy and that we travel to wherever. I mean, where they are playing the match is not even South Africa, you understand? They are there to play the match, you understand? So I believe that the results actually shows how people are not happy with whatever they are doing to our brothers in South Africa. However, you can see that the Mexicans can play better than the South Africans. If you see the formation that the Mexicans played against the South Africans, the Mexicans were really on top of their game. So kudos to the Mexicans. I believe that the World Cup is going to be very, very interesting. With Ghana, going to surprise all of us. I believe that the Ghana Black Stars are going to do very well in this World Cup tournament. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, here they come. Yeah, so with the scores at the end of the game, you've seen the scores.
Yeah.
Was it your expectation?
No, it was shit. My bet was on South Africa.
Your bet was on South Africa. Why was that? Why was your bet?
They were doing so good in the African nation, but now they played like it's a friendly game. It was shit.
I mean, you could see from the first half that Mexican were playing better.
I'd already bet on them before they started.
You already bet on them.
Exactly. So I had no choice.
Thank you.
The next game, hopefully.
Before you were rooting for South Africa.
So obviously, the whole Africa, not only Ghana, we were rooting for Mexico, and you know why. It's unfortunate. We're supposed to support our own from our continent, but tables turned. Right from the onset, I mean, the energy the Mexicans were portraying on the pitch, the pass, they actually dominated the whole pitch. So obviously, we knew they were going to win. I knew Mexico was going to win. My name is Miguel, but I'm Ghanaian. So kudos to Mexico, but the main event is we waiting for Black Stars, Ghana. So yes, of course, Charlie, we want to say a big shout out to our Latin Americans for making we Africans so happy. And we are celebrating all the way from Ghana, Africa. Let's go, baby.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.